Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish, it makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. As always, I am so honored to have you join us for another week. Today, we've got another fabulous human being. Her name is Adele Spraggon. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nelia. Happy to be here.
Yes, where are you tuning in from today?
Markham, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah,
close to you, I hear.
Another Canuck. This is awesome. Fantastic. I love it. So I'm just going to dive right in because I'm really excited about having Adele on today. And I'm just going to let you know a little bit about this expert that's come to join us. And I love her smile right through the screen. You can tell this is going to be good, right? So Adele Spraggon is an award-winning author, a thought leader, and an international speaker and trainer. She has been awarded the 2020 Customer Experience Woman of Inspiration Award. Woohoo! In 2021, she was recognized as the top Behavioural Expert of the Year and Empowered Woman of the Year by the International Association of Top Professionals. Her book, Shift, 4 Steps to Personal Empowerment, has won 3 awards and is sweeping the globe. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It is transforming how people are setting and achieving their goals. And after decades of feeling stuck in patterns and procrastination, avoidance, and quitting, all of which had her living her life below her fullest potential, Adele set out on a journey of discovery and learning. Professional methodologies she was following did not work for her. The result is the creation of her proprietary 4-step repatterning technique, which she delivers through a member portal called the Pattern Maker Hub. Today, she supports thousands globally to achieve extraordinary levels of happiness, peace of mind, prosperity, goal achievement, and life fulfillment. So welcome, behavioral change expert Adele. I'm so happy to hear this. These are all such interesting topics and topics that are close to my heart. So I'm so happy to welcome you today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Excellent. So I need to know. So what led you to study human behavior? Like, tell us a little bit about you and where you come from.
Sure. So I've been in the human behavior, personal development space for 31 years now. I'm giving away my age. And the first 15 of those, Nelia, I was following all the typical operating instructions that we've been told to follow. And, your audience will recognize them. They sound like this: set a goal, determine the steps to get to that goal. If you don't know how to take those steps, find out somebody who does and follow in their footsteps. If you do know how to take those steps and you're not taking them, there's something off, something wrong with your mindset, something wrong with your level of commitment. Correct that. And there's no reason, according to the operating instructions, that you should not be taking those steps. So if you still don't get to your goal, hey, there's something wrong with you. Go back to number 1, start again. Okay. Oh, and by the way, feel like crap as you do, right? Excuse my swearing. But so, I was doing this and I was coaching in this. This is the thing that kills me. I was one of the lead coaches in one of the top personal development industries, companies in the space. And I wholeheartedly believed in commitment and believed in mindset techniques and positive thinking and all of this stuff. The problem was, after 15 years, I realized this isn't working for me. I wanted my own business. I started 3 of them. I quit 3 of them, one after another. And I was filled with shame and anxiety and this deep feeling of existential wrongness internally in me. And I couldn't break free of that no matter how much I applied these operating instructions. And so I thought, it can't be me. After 15 years, I finally determined it cannot be me. There's something off with the way that we are using this human tool called a brain that is inside our head. So I enrolled in university at the age of 40. I decided, okay, I'm going to figure this out. So I graduated at the age of 47. I graduated with a master's and I went, all right, I got it. We are not using our brain the way it is designed to be used. And so I created new operating instructions. And for the last 10 years, that's what I've been teaching. And boy, is it effective. And not just effective to get to your goals. This isn't just about achieving. This is also about happiness and peace of mind and freedom from anxiety, fulfillment, all the things that the human being wants is available inside our head when we know how to use this tool that is inside our skull.
Wow. So I'm dying to hear all of these secrets that are going to help us because, everybody in some form or another needs this.
Yes.
Needs to understand whether you suffer from, chronic anxiety or just the normal regular anxiety, who doesn't want to feel better?
Yes.
So I am really interested. So where do we start? This seems like, there's so many directions that we could go into. How does working with your brain patterns, because I know you've studied and you're an expert in brain patterns, differ from working with other personal development strategies or methods?
Yeah. So the first thing we need to know is that it's only been a few decades that we have had the modern brain scanners. Science has been able to peek inside the human brain non-invasively. So the findings that are coming out of brain research today are very different than what the popular approaches are telling us is happening. Okay, so let's just peel back the skull for a moment and peek inside the head. What do we find in there? All right, if we can do this, it is dark in there. It is silent in there. There is nothing in there except electrical impulses that run down these neural pathways, okay? We think we are accessing the outside world. We think that we're actually knowing what is going on in our situations. We are not. What we are experiencing is neural pathways in the brain that deliver an interpretation of what is going on outside. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay, the same is true for our own identity. We think that we know what we are doing 100% of the time. We think that we know our behaviors 100% of the time. We do not. Our brain is interpreting based on who it expects the identity to be. Once we know this, then we know that we cannot correct our actions. We need to start with the brain patterning. So let me just say something that may surprise your listener. What neuroscience has now determined is that every action that you take, every behavior you adopt, every belief that you hold originates not in the conscious mind, but in the deep recesses of the unconscious. You want to know why you got your hand in the cookie jar? Because the unconscious has taken that action and you put your hand in that cookie jar before your conscious mind said, I want a cookie. Okay. We're working on the wrong thing. If we think that we can say what we need to do and then direct ourselves to do that, it's too late. The train's left the station. The party's underway. We're the latecomer, right? We need to start where the action originates, which is in the unconscious. And that's why I work with people's brain patterns.
Where do you start? Like, it sounds like to somebody who might be a new concept, right? It sounds maybe more complicated than it actually is. So what is like the first step to really understanding or making that change?
Yeah.
How we
So
think.
the first thing to know is anything that's complicated is probably a myth. Okay. If it's not simple, right? Our brain is designed fully to bring us to success and happiness and fulfillment.
Mm.
So let's back all the way up to when a person was first born. We enter this world as human beings, a blank slate. We're not like animals who run on instinct. We need to learn everything. And so from the moment a person is born, they are very rapidly piecing together patterns on which you will be able to take action. Okay.
Mhm.
So by the time we are about 5 years old, we have a pretty full box of patterns. Then in our teenage years, we have another big growth spurt when it comes to pattern creation. By the time we reach adulthood, things slow down. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't still create patterns. We can. It just means that now they're going to happen spontaneously and not as often. Okay. All right. So who's running the show here? For most of us, we have 5-year-old patterns that are upgraded in language. They sound very intelligent, but really at the heart, we've got this little 5-year-old pattern that is trying to do its best to understand the world around it.
Mm.
So let me give you an example of just how patterns work. And I think this is a brilliant example from one of my participants. She had a pattern where she wanted to take care of herself. I know your listeners are all about giving back, right? And so she recognized, I need to take care of me before I can give back. And she came to me and she said, I just can't take care of myself. I said, okay. I said, what do you want to do? She said, I really want to get in shape. I said, okay, why don't we just start with a walk?
Mm.
And she said to me, Adele, I can't do that. She said, every time I walk, I get winded walking.
Mm.
Now, I knew, Nelia, this to be true. I had met this woman at a conference where we had been at a conference together, and we had decided to go to lunch at a building right beside the building we were in.
Okay.
And it was like a 5-minute walk. Okay. And halfway on that walk, she was huffing and puffing. And she said to me, I'm sorry, Adele, I got to stop. I got to rest. I just can't walk. And I said, no problem. And we stopped and we rested. So when she told me this, I was going, yeah, that's true. At the same time, though, Nelia, this woman had her own construction company. So my mind is going, something's missing, right?
Right.
So I said to her, I said, do you take sledgehammers to walls? And she said, yes. I said, do you get winded? No. I said, okay. So here we are. You're in this very active job, but at the same time, when it comes to walking, you get winded. I said, okay, I'm going to teach you how to identify a pattern. Her name was Brooke. Okay, Brooke, and she's given me permission to tell this story. I said, I'm going to show you how to identify a pattern. I'd like you to go off on a walk and tell me how you're feeling.
Mm.
So she called me back a minute later and she's laughing. She said, you're not going to believe what happened. She said, I put my running shoes on. I walked to the end of my driveway. I'm standing there wondering whether to go left or go right. And I realize I'm winded. So she said, you're right, Adele, this is a pattern.
Mm.
Okay. So what is going on here? Well, our brain is not logical. Once it has created a pattern, it runs on those patterns. Okay. What was really happening inside Brooke? She had a pattern that said taking care of herself was selfish. And that pattern was going to win out. That belief driven by that pattern was going to override anything that she tried to do, to the point of making her, in her case, feel winded when she walked. Okay. The same is true for everything that we do. If we are anxious, it is a pattern that is making us anxious. It is not the situation out there. Once we know that, we can start addressing the real thing. So how did I work with Brooke? Well, I started to say to her, okay, let's identify a pattern. So here's how you identify a pattern, people. You are going to close your eyes. A pattern is a 3-part intertwining: physical sensation, emotion, thought. When the 3 aspects of our being come together, it creates a particular action, a particular behavior, a particular belief. Okay. If we know that it's not all happening in thought, it is physical, emotional, mental.
Mm.
When we know that, we can start to work on the real thing, which is the pattern. So Brooke standing at the end of her driveway, she can feel winded. That is her physical sensation.
So you first have to recognize it before you can change it.
Exactly. The first thing we need to do is identify what is actually going on, not what our brain tells us is going on. There's a difference there. Brooke's brain was telling her she was winded. When she actually started to identify the pattern, she could feel the anxiety that approached when she thought taking care of myself is what I need to do. She started to feel anxious. It was that anxiety that was driving that pattern. Okay. So she then started to tease apart this pattern. So let me just explain what I just said. You think about your brain being those neural pathways. We have the ability to rewire that brain, right? Okay. We can target that pathway. We can tease it apart. What happens then is the brain will snap into a brand new channel and we will have a totally different action, behavior, belief. So as Brooks, I should say, learned how to do this, what happened was the next time I called her like a year later after we'd worked together just to check in. And I said, hi, what are you up to? She said, oh, I just got back from holiday. I said, oh, where did you go? Hiking. I said, really? I said, how was that? She said, it's awesome. I love hiking. Now, here's what's going to happen. When we know that it's a brain pattern that is delivering that particular action, behavior, belief, and we tease it apart, you literally, Nelia, you step out of one identity into another, leaving behind that old you. Okay, remember I said I had a pattern for quitting? Today, I never even think about quitting. It just doesn't even enter my space. It's not like I'm fighting myself. I'm not hanging on going, I got to have willpower and I'm not going to quit. It just doesn't enter the space because if you don't have a channel for quitting, why would you quit? If you don't have a channel for winded walking, why would you get winded walking? Right?
So especially for parents too, who, you know, because you say it's all these things are created within the first 5 years, right? So as parents listening, we can also please keep that in mind, you know, because so many, I think we're becoming more aware of this, but there are still parents out there who don't think that their children at that age are absorbing and learning and structuring their whole future, you know? So I love that.
Yeah, but I think the reason that we get trapped in old patterns, I should say, is just simply because nobody has taught us the power of the human brain and what it is. So what is the human brain? There's only one thing that we can say, we can put a label on it, and that is adaptability itself. That is humanity. We aren't like animals that have instincts that we have to continue taking the same actions over and over again. Our strength is adaptability. It's how we come together as social animals.
We can be in control, right? I mean, we can make our brain so that we are in control of what it's thinking and how we're feeling and, you know, all those things. Even though we have different lives and different perceptions, I mean, we can train our brain, right? Is what you're saying as well. We can change those pathways and we can be more in control of how we react to things, you know?
Okay, I'm going to just change one word.
Okay.
Okay. We are never in control. Ooh. This is the problem. We think that our conscious mind is controlling our actions. It isn't. Our actions are given by existing patterns. Okay. The problem with how I was trying to do things prior to understanding brain patterns is I was trying to control. I was trying to say, I know what the correct action needs to be, and I should be able to take that action. The problem was I couldn't. And then I ended up beating myself up, blaming myself, feeling terribly ashamed of myself because I could not take that action. The reason I couldn't take that action, though, had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the fact that I had a brain pattern that was taking an action that I didn't want to take. So the first thing that we need to know as human beings that yes, we are highly, highly adaptable creatures. That is our strength. But the second thing we really need to know is that we are not in control of what we believe, what our behaviors are, and what our actions are. Our patterns are always in control. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that we're working on the wrong thing. We need a method of subtraction, not addition. We have to remove what isn't working and get to the unknown. And then our brain will do what it's designed to do, which is upgrade the pattern. Yeah. Questions about that? Because that's super important for your listener to know. We swim in a world of blame and shame, and we're very quick to say there's something wrong with me simply because we have been given the wrong philosophy. That's the only reason, because we have been told that we should know and can do what goes against the grain of the pattern.
Yes. Thank you
Cool.
for clearing that up. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm intrigued because I just feel like if you can understand why how your brain pattern works, I mean, you can't make any of these changes and you can't adapt at all without knowing this, right? So where do we go from there? Like, how do we, I don't know, I want to learn more. Like, I don't even know what to ask you because you're the expert and I'm just trying to figure it all out, to be honest. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So your example was really great. Like, I love Brooke's story because it so makes sense to me. You know, I was just always under the impression that if we can understand how our brain patterns work, then we can control them. But now I understand what you're saying. So if that makes any sense. So thank you for clearing that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about our human brain, and the thing that always lights me up about it, is how truly adaptable we are as human beings, right?
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we are powerful creatures, but we don't realize just how powerful we are as individuals until we know that we are not in control. That is our strength, right? Okay, so let me just explain what I just said. Let's go back to Brooke for a moment. Let's say that Brooke had said, I should be able to control how much I walk. Okay. First of all, notice how that stands on a basis of there is something wrong with who I am today. Yes. Okay, great. Awesome.
Yes.
Then it stands on a basis of, and I should know what the solution is. I'm not walking. I should walk. Okay. This is how human beings are today are taught how to work.
Such a negative thought, you know, that you should be able to.
It's so wrong too. I don't like to talk in terms of right or wrong, but it is so wrong, Nelia.
And we do it all the time, all of us, you know.
All the time.
And yeah, so we need to change those words, honestly.
Yes.
Yes. Could have, you know.
Right, exactly. So let's say that something really was off or, you know, well, let's just use the word off in Brooke's heart. Let's say that there was something off physically that she needed to address. Then being winded is absolutely where she needed to be. Okay, because that tells her, oh, there's something off. I need to go and get this corrected, my heart corrected. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with how we are being in this particular moment. The only problem is that we're misaligned with what's actually going on in the current situation. So patterns pull from their past. Patterns, like I was saying, when we don't know how to upgrade patterns, they're always believing that the past is the present. Okay. And they take past base patterns and they pull those into the present moment and they create the familiar in the moment. That is what was happening with Brooke. She had a past-based pattern that she had created when she was little that said being selfish is wrong, taking care of me is wrong. That pattern kept overriding the present moment, the current situation that she was in.
And I think that's why I chose the incorrect word of control, but it's more a choice, you know? I feel. Because once I said that, then I understood, just to go back to that. What I mean by in control is if you do have, using your word, the adaptability, but we do have the means of changing, right? Of changing our lives in the way that we do things, if we understand. So if you're not even open to, some of us aren't open to discovering and recognizing those things, but if we can be open to that, then that's when the answers come. That's when the work can happen, right?
Yes.
So many of us are closed down and we don't want to look at it as a negative. We're learned so many things when we're younger that it does really impact our perception of everything, the way that we live our lives. And that's why this topic really is interesting to me, because it gives hope.
Oh, huge amount of hope.
Does.
Absolutely. Massive amount of hope, because, I like what you're saying about choice. Here's the thing. Here's what I teach. In life, there are problems. Life is a series of problems, one after another, that need to be addressed. The question is, what creates the problem? When we think about our head being locked, our brain being locked inside a bony skull with no access to the outside world, then problems are the result of obsolete brain patterns that are in need of an upgrade. And that's the only thing that problems are. And if we can see every problem like that, oh, I have a pattern in my brain that was created in my past that is no longer aligned with what is going on in my present, then what do we need to do?
I love that, because then we're not putting blame.
That's right. It's just some patterns work, some patterns don't work. That's it.
Because it will change the way you think of yourself. When you stop doing the blame and when you stop just believing all the negative things, there are reasons why things exist, and there are reasons why things, feel the way that they do. So yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. As pattern makers, we are so self-forgiving. Here's something that you want to know. Okay, Nelia, if somebody asks you, why did you do that? Here's going to be your answer. Because my pattern made me do it. That's it.
Want to know right? More?
Now, that doesn't let us off the hook. We then have to address the underlying brain pattern, but at least we don't have to blame ourselves when we do something that our pattern did that we had no control over to begin with, right? That was just taking an action. It's like, oh, okay, I'll take care of that. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that I was a bitch. I'll take care of that, right? Because I got a pattern in my head that did that. Perfect. Thank you. And then we're off and running again. So yeah, so what we need to do is remove unworkable patterns, remove old, obsolete patterns. Get rid of them. Let's just slip our hand inside our brain and just throw them away. Our brain will do what it does brilliantly and create a new one.
Life is too short to live in that chaos, right?
Yes, yes.
And
absolutely.
If you don't understand where the problem or why the problems are happening, they're just going to keep repeating themselves, really.
That's right. That's right. People make the same mistakes over and over and over again, until they learn about patterns, and then they go, oh, I get it. I have a pattern that is making that mistake. All I've got to do is upgrade that.
Yeah, I find that example with Brooke intriguing, because as soon as you said, she has her own construction company, I'm like, something's not aligning.
That's right.
There's a reason. And there's a lot of us, like there's many professional women and men who, can go out and speak, for example, with their business or something, but then they're in a different situation. It could be one-on-one or with a different type of group of people, and you become so anxious you can't speak, right? So it's like, how does that happen? Like there's so many examples in life of that, where people thrive in similar situations, but don't in others. So it's important to really step back and think of, what is happening? Where's where's this all coming from, right? So that you can learn about it and learn, about these patterns and make a change, because it's so worth it. Your life
for sure,
changed dramatically.
Absolutely. And, like I was saying, there's absolutely no logic in patterns, as you're saying, right? Like, I can give another example. Another client of mine, she got this job at a nonprofit and she was supposed to lead these meetings.
Mhm.
The thing was, is she had a pattern hidden to her initially in her that was intimidated by powerful men. And there was a lot of powerful men around the table. So she would take the lead in this meeting and the meeting would go right off her agenda, down different paths. All the men were doing their own thing and
Mm,
she would never be able to lead it.
mm.
Now, typically, it would have been, oh, it's the man's fault, or oh, it's my fault because I'm weak, or oh, it's HR's fault. They should never have hired me, right?
Yeah, so they're
Something
making me, something is wrong with them that they're making me feel uncomfortable, or
exactly, exactly. And then you have to correct all that. But she knew better. At least she knew, oh, okay, I got a pattern in my brain that is somehow causing this agenda to go off track.
mm,
Great. That's the first place to start. I have a problem. That means I have a pattern that is causing the problem. Fantastic. So she knew what to do. She was a pattern maker. So she teased apart that pattern. What happened next? Well, the very next meeting, the agenda, she stuck to the agenda. The men listened to her.
mhm.
One of them, who was her biggest nemesis, came up to her afterwards and said, great meeting. You did a great job, right? And she's going, wow, like that was amazing. But when you think about patterns, it makes sense. So
Mm.
as soon as she removed that old pattern that was intimidated, her brain immediately, that adaptable brain of ours, it created a brand new pattern that aligned perfectly with the situation that she was in, that now took new actions that made sense for her, for the meeting. Okay.
Mhm.
So what happened? Well, she likely stood a little taller. She would have nipped certain conversations in the bud. She would have said, no, we're not going to go down that path. Sorry, you're not going to communicate on that. We're communicating on this. And she would have done it with ease,
Mm.
without any form of, oh my gosh, there's something wrong that needs to be corrected. Because there's never really anything wrong. It's just, we're just misaligned with the actual situation. So
It's
that's
great.
how it changes.
So great, because I can just see more people learning about this and feeling awful, less awful about themselves and who they are. And who would have thought that this could be a fabulous way to learn about self-care? It's just so many of us think so negatively. And we don't realize that not everything um, comes from how we feel about ourselves. There are reasons and there are methods and there are things that we can learn on how to correct this, right? So I just keep seeing, a room full of people and coming back after they learn a bit about what you're discussing today and saying, hey, I feel so much better about who I am, about how I do things. I feel more confident. I feel less anxious. So important. And I think that's really what everybody wants.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Nellie, I used to suffer from existential shame. I don't even know how else to describe it. I would blush in certain conversations. I would retreat into myself if anybody even glanced at me the wrong way. I mean, it
Mm.
was deep, deep shame in my bones. And even something like that, some trauma from childhood can be repatterned. It's all, our brain is highly, highly adaptable. Today, I rarely experience shame. And even when I do, like in those rare, rare, rare moments, I go, oh, okay, I must have done something. My pattern did something, I should say, that my subconscious is trying to tell me, hey, you got a pattern here that's incorrect, right? And that's why that little moment of shame comes in, but I know exactly what to do with it. But all of those past traumas, all of those anxiety, the panic attacks I used to have, that is gone. Boom.
That's amazing. I love that for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And it just makes me so happy when we learn something for ourselves and how it changes us personally. And then we want to teach it and shout it from the rooftops, because we know how it can affect people. We know that, if we could just introduce you to this new topic, to this is something that maybe you haven't learned or, before, that things don't have to be the way that they are right now. There's always room for, a better life. And it's so important because, we're only here for a short amount of time. Why not like live it the best we can, right?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, I always like to say that together we can change the world, right? Like if we think about our brain and the adaptability that we all share, and how every word that I speak influences the people who hear it, and every word that they speak influences my brain and has the potential to upgrade or change my patterning, right?
Absolutely.
Then together we can make a massive difference. But it starts by truly understanding how our brain works and
Mhm.
how powerful it is and how influential each of us is, right? You talked about parents. The
Mhm.
influence that a parent has on a child is amazing, but I want to flip it the other way. The influence that child has on the parent is equally transformative.
Oh,
And
I believe
so,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that. My son has made me a better person, let me tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And we swim in this world that says parents are responsible, but no, we're all a village here and we're all raising those children. And the underlying philosophies have a lot to do with it.
That's beautiful. I love that, it's just, and I feel like I say this quite often, but I feel like the new generation, that like my son's a teenager now, they're more open, I think, to
Yeah.
all of these, inclusions and different way of thinking. And I'm so, so happy about that.
Yeah. Well, because, when you think about it, like when I grew up, I mean, I'm 58 years old now. When I grew up, we used to think that an adult's brain was locked in. That was it.
Just who
You,
you were.
that's who you were. That was it. That's your identity for the rest of your life. Fix it. It's broken, or don't fix it if it's working.
By the way, you're 58 and fabulous, let me tell you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But but now with this new understanding of how our brains work in the last few decades, which is what your son is growing up into, it's like, no, you're constantly adaptable throughout your life. You're always able to create new brain patterns. So let's use that capacity to transform the world around us, to upgrade all of us into the powerful influencers that we are.
And thank goodness for that. Like, thank goodness. Um, yeah, it's just, I just see hope everywhere. Like during our conversation, like as you're talking, I can just see things that can be changed with this learning of the thought patterns and the brain patterns and how they all come about, and recognizing them, and how to change them. I think it's fantastic. It's not something that I honestly knew very much about previous to speaking with you. So I appreciate you educating me as well. So yeah, I'm going to be more aware and more learn a little bit more about it. So thank you for sharing this. This is amazing.
Oh, awesome. Yes, no problem.
So do you do so you do coaching, correct? Like people can come to you, and you can help them with making this connection, right? With helping them change the way that they feel about themselves through the changing of their patterns, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I teach a method called the 4-step repatterning technique. It's 4 steps done in privacy of one's own head. And it really does transform any action, behavior, belief that no longer is aligned with the situation. So I teach it in workshops. You can also get it through my book. I have free training on my website. So if anybody's interested, I recommend that they jump on my website, get the free training, order my book. It's free. All I ask is that people pay for shipping. Um,
Fantastic.
let's change the brain patterns that are keeping all of us in this swimming in this world of blame and shame. It's so unnecessary.
Yes, unnecessary. That's the perfect word. And waste of time and unnecessary. And we all want to live our best lives, right? We all just want to feel better about who we are, and in turn we could, like we were talking earlier before we hit record, and just I believe that the better we feel about ourselves, the more or the less we procrastinate, the less burnout there is, the more healthier we are, and the more we can really live from a place of our cup is full, right? So then we can actually help other people. And I think the world would be such a much lovelier place to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
We let
I think everybody on this planet is trying to do their best.
yeah.
We just need some tools to help us to do that, because I believe in the goodness of the human being. I mean, I think we're all trying to do everything we can to help each other and to help the planet. So we just need techniques.
Thank you so much for your huge part in it, because I think this will really change lives. So yeah. So can you tell us so where to find you exactly again?
Yeah, you can go on my website, adelespraggon.com. There's lots of, like I said, free training there. You can get my book there. That's probably the best place to go. You can also go to my other website, which is shift4steps.com. If somebody just wants a copy of my book, they can order a copy of the book there for free. Just pay for shipping and I'll send it out autographed.
Yes, and I'll put all the links in the show notes for sure.
Lovely.
This is amazing. So thank you so much for
you're
coming
welcome.
and making it simple to understand. So I appreciate that so much. I try to grasp all these new concepts and I want to make sure I'm getting them right, so thank you. The way that you explained it was phenomenal. And I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of it. And, for those of us who haven't thought of this before, it can be a wonderful, terrific new way to just feel better and impact not just ourselves, but people around us, live better, less blame. Oh my God, there's no, it's all win-win, right? There's no
happiness, peace of mind, success, and fulfillment all rolled into one. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
And this is all what we all
and let's throw prosperity in there too, because money is also a pattern.
Yes, that'll be another topic. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Adele, for sharing your brilliance with us. It was so great to meet you.
It was lovely to meet you too, Nelia.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing. So please continue to spread the word and help people find that happiness and fulfillment.
So important, isn't it? So important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.